I just watched a video by Clarence Kennedy during that Japan trip, and he touched on something that really resonated with me because it's something that I've kind of lived through and experienced, and that's hip pain while squatting, which is really interesting because he's one of those people that first got me into squatting, and surprisingly, I don't know whether this was subconsciously how it happened or what, but I kind of started squatting like him. Whether I realized that at the time or not, but if you watch how he squats, there's like a there's like a certain pattern that he kind of goes through. I don't know if you guys can even see this, but he goes through this pattern where he starts at the top like this, and then he initiates the squat by leaning over, kind of like this is what I do as well. And then he gets down, 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 and then at the bottom he kind of sits up, obviously with the heels on the ground. I can't really do this properly without weight on my back, but he ends up being upright with the weight on his back. But then on the way up, he does the reverse of that. So he goes like this and then up. And then so it kind of looks like, this sort of stuff. And I do the same thing. And it was interesting to him talk about how he reckons it's because of the hip pain. So obviously he's an incredible athlete, incredible back strength, incredible leg strength, incredible squatter. I think he squatted 320 ATG at one point. And we've all seen that 300 kilo squat, which is about 660 or something. 660 pause ATG back in the day. I'll never forget that video. That's probably one of my most favorite, most inspirational videos I've ever come across when it comes to the squat. But I do the same thing as him. And I don't know what the mechanism is behind that, like what muscle is lagging, what are we trying to protect when we go into this thing? Because for me, when I'm squatting, even if I'm in a hack squat machine and you force me, because of the backrest, to do this, like in a hack squat machine with my feet out in front, it doesn't really matter. As long as there's like an upright posture, this will produce lots and lots of hip pain. Now, right now, I don't have any hip pain because of the biking. But this type of business would absolutely kill me. So probably one of the reasons why the Hindu squats, the way I was doing them like this, kind of helped me because it was lightweight and it was exactly where the pain was, and I could just kind of like smooth that out with really, really super lightweight. And so whatever the muscles responsible for this upright posture squatting, for me, is weak. I don't know whether it's a hip external or internal rotation problem, what's going on. But I mean, if Clarence was sitting here, I'd be like, man, show me your hip internal rotation, your external rotation, show me your passive flexion of the hip. I want to see, because he's literally exactly like me, struggling through this stuff. So I'm like, it was just interesting to hear him talk about it, because the video of the title of the video that I just watched, it was something like, my squat technique is poor, or he's not good, or something like that. It's like, what? Clarence Kennedy saying that he can't squat properly. It's weird. But he even said that, and the boys from Seeker Strength were there, and he was like, oh, what would you boys do to, improve it? And obviously, he does talk about, and he identifies that it's the wrong thing to do, because when you watch, the Fridge, Seeker Strength, squat, he's very much really, really upright. But then again, he's got a different body. He's very short-legged and long-torsoed, and so he basically just squats onto his legs like this. He just bounces off his calves. Whereas for me, I don't do that. Like, I bounce off my glutes. I have to do this to squat. So I'm like squatting like this, right? And see, when I make the display pictures of the videos, I'm hell upright, right? I'm like this. But then the first thing that I do out of the squat is woo, this. And then up and then here. Whereas some guys are just built to squat. Like, I know people at my work who are never seen the gym in their life, and you ask them to squat up and down in those delirious night shifts that we talk about anything and everything when we have a moment. There's some people there that are just like natural squatters, and I'm like, God damn, man, you don't even know how to freaking squat, and you can squat. I just thought it was interesting that Clarence Kennedy has the same thing, because I have the same thing, and he also mentioned the hip pain. Initially, he said back in the day, the reason why he started squatting in that form, in that technique, was because he had knee pain, and so his idea was to limit the dorsiflexion. So if he was to squat like this, it's like full on into your knees. So he was like, why don't I squat like this into my hips? That way I limit the force going through the knees. And I'm sitting here. I mean, I am far, far lower in terms of like accomplishment and anything in weightlifting. Clarence Kennedy is one of the best to do it. But even I have experienced some of the symptoms that he's talking about. So he was like pushing 300, I'm pushing 200, and we're experiencing the same symptoms, the same troubles. So where do you go from that? The Seeker Strength boys were talking about him, because, you know, at the time of the video, he was squatting kind of like this, really kind of turned out feet like this, which I feel as well, right? You blow off some of that requirement of the hip, and it feels better. Like this for me feels better on my hips when I squat. However, when you see me squat with my feet turned out, I can't even see it, with my feet turned out like this, this is a good sign for you guys that I'm not feeling strong. If I have to do this with my feet, that means the hip is not feeling great, and I have to blow off some of that heat by externally rotating my feet. So what this allows me is to bypass some of the pain that I have and some of the discomfort that I have. Now, I don't have pain anywhere in any range of motion. It's literally when I come back down here and I come up here, like 90 degree, right there, it just grabs me like that TFL region. Now, I don't even know if it's a TFL, but it hurts in that point. So they were like, why do you do that? Why do you do that? And the Seeker Strength boys were like, why don't you bring your feet in a little bit? And then they talked about, well, this is exactly going to the hurt locker for me. That's where it hurts. And I don't want to do that. So it's interesting. Right now, you know, I'm kind of beat up with my back from the deadlifts the other day, so I'm still not the best. But right now, you know, my squatting is pain-free, although I'm not where I used to be in terms of like peaking. Like I'm not in my strongest form right now, but I feel healthy. But the moment I start getting that strength back for the 210 to 215 kind of strength level, where I'm kind of like knocking on the PR, I start to feel funky again. So my strength is there and I'm pushing great numbers. The central nervous system is fired up, but I start to exhibit some of those pains, which is shit, right? Because as soon as I start to hit the ceiling of my strength, and I'm like, here we go, I'm going to start getting a PR, boom. It slaps me across the face like crazy. I can't even drive to work anymore. So then I get pissed off and I'm like, all right, I'm going to back away because it's just too much. So it's interesting that somebody who is, you know, 50% stronger than me, right? So I squat 200 thereabouts, and he squats 300 thereabouts. He used to. So it just goes to show you how when you start to hit the upper echelon, let's say of your current state, the body starts to push back if you don't get things precisely how you need to get them. Now, I'm no one to say this to Clarence, but you know, a part of me is like, maybe he could have squatted 330, 340, 350 if he had the right knowledge, the right expertise, the right people around him to be like, this is the trouble. This right here is the trouble, and this is why you're exhibiting these hip pains and knee pains or whatever. Because in my mind, I'm always like, okay, no worries. It can't be wear and tear. But maybe there's something that we're not seeing. There's some sort of misalignment, and that's why we're experiencing this stuff. And part of me is like, it's an opportunity missed, right, for me as well. Like for the last 3-4 years, I feel like an opportunity has been missed to work it out. And I always say this to you guys all the time, like, some of the things that frustrate me, like the physical stuff doesn't frustrate me as much as the intellectual stuff frustrates me, because I always think to myself, if I was an intellect, if I was intelligent enough if I was smart enough, if I was Einstein or Nikola Tesla, I'll be able to work this shit out. Like, we're talking about squatting a damn barbell. These guys are working about general relativity and freaking distance from stars and galaxies and all this sort of stuff. And I can't work out the human body and how it goes into up and down into squatting motion. So I feel like if Einstein ever got hooked on the freaking barbell, he would have been the greatest of all time. That's the initial thought, because he will work this crap out. He'll work it out. Obviously, there's genetics, physical genetics, you know, associated with all of that. And maybe Tesla's a small boned little guy. And also Einstein. But I feel like they would maximize their potential to the brim because they have the intellect. They would work it out. This is not difficult stuff, dude. We are talking about biomechanics, man. It's not astrophysics. Physics. So, from Clarence all the way down to little old Ivan, I feel like it's a similar problem. And I feel like we both missed something. Now, I could be completely wrong here. This is just me thinking out loud. Maybe it's just wear and tear and the body can't do no more and that's it. You know, because part of me is also thinking about it like this. Okay, you've taken this path to squat 300, this path right here. And this path is in that particular stance where you're doing this sort of business. You know, this sort of business. You're doing that, right? This is how you squat 300. So if once you get to that 300 level, it's like picking a class in Boulders Gate 3, right? Which I got the other day and it's freaking amazing. Actually, yesterday. Played it last night. What a sick game, man. So you pick a fighter class, right? And you're hammering that all the way to the top level. You can't just be like, oh, you know what? This boss isn't really working out for me with the fighter. So let me just jump in and re-specialize into rogue. No, man. You're going to have to go back to like level 1 rogue if you want to jump classes. You're going to be shit again. So I feel like maybe somebody who is a 300 kilo squat in a particular thing and you get him to start squatting like this, let's just say something completely different, you're not going to have the strength in this position because you've built 300 like this and you haven't built anything like this. And this is where Louis Simmons comes back and he's like, well, if you build 300 like this, you're going to have 300 like this as well. Whether that's right or not, I haven't, you know, anecdotally felt that. I haven't experienced that. But it's something that plays on my mind, like this idea that there is a class of lifter out there, like in Boulders Gate 3. There is a class of Louis Simmons trainees who do this, and it's a subclass. Let's call it the West Side class in Boulders Gate. And you do that, you'll be good at backstabbing people, you'll be good at fighting people one-on-one with big fat axe, and you'll be good at casting magic. I mean, that's what kind of Louis is saying, that if you're good at like this, you're going to be good at everything. It's like an all-rounder. It's very, very hard to kind of work all this stuff out because, like, in my mind, I'm like, man, who do you listen to? What do you do? I guess from my point of view and my low intellect compared to Einstein and Tesla, like, I listen to everyone, and I'm like, all right, dude, so what do you reckon is going on here? Oh, okay, you think it's because you've got hip pain because of this business, blah, blah, blah. Well, Louis reckons that this is what you got to do. You got to... Dude, have you met Louis Simmons, dude? Yeah, so this guy knows all this shit, man. So like, let's listen to him. And so, you know, Louis, what do we do? Right, brother. Here onto a box, squat there and up. Do you do that? Do you not do that? I don't know. But it's, you know, you speak to a whole bunch of people. When I say speak, I'm just literally watching videos and reading stuff online. Louis says that if you squat wide, you're going to strengthen all of your musculature around the hip. Now, I'm thinking about Clarence Kennedy and myself, and I'm like, well, maybe in this stance, when you specialize to the hilt, in this stance, if you're gunning it in this stance, you are focusing more on the quads and the glutes, and the adductors don't get any love. And so after a certain level, the adductors start to pull back on the rest of the system, hence hip pain. Maybe it's just that. But in this stance, when we're squatting like this, you are doing quads, hamstrings, glutes, adductors, everything is working. Everything is working, and you're going to bring all of your skill sets, rogue, mage, and warrior, at the same time. You know, this is the warrior, this is the rogue, this, you know, whatever. I'm just trying to make an analogy in my mind because I'm fresh off Boulders Gate just now. Maybe if you specialize too early, maybe if you specialize in the wrong thing, it doesn't work out for you. But this pattern that you know, this business, back angle, into a upright squat, into a upright squat, into a back angle. This sort of shit. Right? This. I don't know, man. Even Clarence Kennedy himself is experiencing the same thing as me, or the vice versa. I don't know what to make it of all. You have 100 pieces of 100 items of evidence, and maybe I need a freaking chat GPT to work this stuff out, or AI, to take everything that I've ever come across in my life and compute that shit into something, a precipitate that I can use. All of these values that I've experienced from every exposure that I've had, watching people, training myself, seeing people train in the gym with all sorts of lifts. If I could take all of that data and, put it together and then make sense, okay, this is the trouble, this is why, this is where, this is what it is. I wish I could do that. And that probably frustrates me the most, because I have enough data in this damn thing. And this is the second book, right? Look at it. That's more than half. More than half. More than half of this book has gone through, and I've got another one over there since I started doing this stuff. And so everything is there. I've documented everything, and yet I can't work it out. I've tried wide, I've tried box, I've tried single leg, I've tried hamstring spamming, I've tried quad spamming, I've tried glute spamming, I've tried core spamming, I've tried lower back spamming, I've tried core, different flexion core spamming, I've tried side planks, this plank, blah, 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 blah. Some of the things that worked for me, and I don't know whether Clarence would agree with this, is that any time I squat a lot, I hurt a lot. Every time I start doing a lot of pulling, I feel healthy, and therefore then I squat a lot. So then we come to the realization, maybe to improve your squat and you have this type of shit going on, you just got to deadlift. Maybe the deadlift is going to work out whatever the difference there is. And maybe the deadlift is going to address that because it has some sort of an effect on the adductor. Maybe it's a glute thing, maybe it's a hamstring thing. I don't really know what's going on. But hip pain seems to be a common denominator with two individuals, myself and Clarence Kennedy, who have this type of squat pattern. Are you weak with the deadlift, and that's why you squat like that? So Clarence has a very, or once upon a time had a very impressive deadlift. I think 340, 350 deadlift, 340, I think something like that I've seen him do. So that's very impressive deadlift. My deadlift is far away from my squat as well. Whether those ratios, actually my ratio is probably even worse. I think he at the time was doing like 340, 345 deadlift, 320 squat. So that's actually really close. For me, it's like 265 and 212. So there's like 50 kilos there, and there's 20 kilos with him at a higher clip. So do you just say to yourself, that doesn't make sense to me at all? Why would deadlifting, why would be doing a strength make you better at something that you're weak at, when your strength is actually really strong in comparison? I don't know. These are some of my thoughts. I don't even know how long this freaking video is. These are some of my thoughts that I have. I'll take you guys through a gingerly done squat routine. I'm gonna take it all the way from the bar, and I'll get to like 3 plates. I think my back is still fried from that reverse pyramid the other day of the deadlift. I don't know if you guys can see it here. Can you see it here? 220 for 3, 210 for 4, blah blah blah. Today's day 3, and I'm still feeling it. So let's do that. Is that a stripper squat? I don't know if that's the stripper squat, what Clarence and I do. But that's what we do. It's just frustrating to know that it's always going to end up in pain if I take it really seriously for the next few weeks. So I'm upright, and watch this. This right here feels great. So something about the hip that's making me feel great like this, but obviously you can't squat like this because I can't externally rotate enough. My hips, I wouldn't be able to squat like this. This is where I feel strong, and this is where I hurt, if I was to really kind of bang this out. But luckily, oh man. Luckily, the bike has been feeling really good. I reckon I'll skip the bike today because my quads are. I feel like I need to rest it a little bit. I don't need to do it every single day. See how my feet want to rotate out? So maybe that's a hip internal rotation issue. Maybe that's a... See? This is where my hips are taking me. Wider and wider. Wider and wider. Now, right now, I'm feeling it because my lower back is fried. It's almost embarrassing to think about because, my God, this is a damn squat. And there are guys out there running like algorithms to work out how far a damn star is. That shit right there frustrates me the most. The gains, the results, the bar, the weight, that's all like a representation, an outcome of your thought process. That's how I view it. So when you don't see results, when you don't see progression, I don't get upset about the lack of progression. I get upset about the working out. Why can't I work that shit out, dude? What the hell is going on, man? It's not freaking rocket science. Clearly it is for me. And my two damn neurons in my head. God damn, man. Fuck. So frustrating, man. Anyway. I must try and stay away from the volume. Because I haven't even warmed up today. This is what you're seeing now is me walking out of the house and doing this. Like I said, I'm not gonna do the bike today, I wanna skip it today. And then hopefully deadlift tomorrow hard. So I don't know if that's gonna go well tomorrow or not, but that's the plan. So I'm trying to explode as much as I can. So these are some of the things that are not evident in my videos because they're always silent. But I saw Clarence Kennedy grunting and moaning and whatever in his videos, and I was like, exactly how I do it. So I like this idea, shooting the video like this, because you guys get to kind of have a closer, damn hair, get to have a closer feel of, you know, how I go about it. But it's a crazy thing, man. It's like the most joy I feel in training. I don't get excited about bicep curls, tricep extensions, all that bodybuilder crap, laterals. When I do those movements, I'm just merely existing. But when I do this stuff, I'm like, yeah, man, like today's gonna serve as another data point in my crazy project of working the shit out. That's literally how I view it, man. You know, it's like getting EXP points in Baldur's Gate, which, by the way, is a sick game, man. I mean, I haven't bought a new game in more than 10 years. I'll lie. I'm lying. I bought FIFA, but nothing else. So I've got, last FIFA I got was FIFA 20, and then 19, 18, 17, 16. But other than that, I haven't bought any other games at all. It's all, but Baldur's Gate is sick. Oh, my old friend. When are you gonna give me some damn love? When's my hip gonna clear out? When I'm 80 years old. Oh man, back is fried. Oh, and another thing I want to tell you guys is this is really interesting. A few days ago, or maybe even a week now ago, I came home from work, put up my phone, I was about to eat dinner, it's like 10 o'clock at night. And I noticed that Mitchell Hooper, so I've subscribed to him recently. Mitchell Hooper's that World's Strongest Man winner this year. Been really enjoying his videos, really intelligent guy, strong obviously. And saw he was on live. So I jumped on and, you know, people asking him questions and whatever. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to ask him a question, see if he'll answer it. And so I asked, what have you had the most success with in terms of squat assistance or squat accessories, something like that, along those lines? He replies, very, very well, spent a lot of time answering my question, which I was very grateful for. He says, deadlifts. And then he goes on to explain, and he tried to reference a study which he couldn't pull up on the screen. He couldn't show his screen. But he pulled up a study where it showed that the only difference between the squat and the deadlift in terms of muscle activation, it's very, very similar. Very, very similar. In fact, what he concluded was that the only difference between the squat and the deadlift is that a deadlift is like a squat with a calf raise in terms of muscle activation. So calves don't get activated nowhere near as much in a squat as much as they do in a deadlift. And that's why he said, if you put a squat and a calf raise together, you basically get the same activation as a deadlift. He basically meant that the deadlift is a better exercise. That's what he that's what I got out of it. And he basically said the muscle activation in quads, glutes, hamstrings, all of that stuff is similar. I think he might have said that it was insignificant. I could be butchering this. You can probably find this online. It was insignificant between the hamstrings in squats and deadlifts. It was basically like statistically insignificant. So basically, the only glaring difference is that the squat does not activate the calves at all, whereas deadlifts do when you're pulling. I thought that was interesting, and he said, work on the deadlifts. That's going to be my most successful thing. That's been on my mind for a few days now. Really, really on my mind. Now, I don't know whether you guys agree with this or not. Frankly, when somebody like this says something like that, there's a lot of weight to that because it's not some guy in a lab. You know, this is a guy that's the world's strongest man. So whether you like it or not, this guy has credibility. I'm very, very skeptical of people who have lab coats. You know, going to a lab, into a uni and publish some paper and then they tell me some shit and they've never touched a barbell. That's why for the most time, I don't really care about studies. But when a guy like that speaks, and he's an intellectual, he's got a uni degree, you know, he's clearly a very smart fella, speaks very, very smartly. He's a great thinker. He has lots of experience, lots of expertise practically, and also he has education into, I think he said exercise physiology, or exercise science or something like that. Actually, he studied here in Australia. I think Sydney, he said. That was really interesting. So maybe this is why I'm finding the deadlifts for me are working better, is because they are addressing maybe some things that the squat isn't. And so overdosing on something like the squat, maybe it's not the best idea. Maybe the best thing for me to do with squats is actually step away a little bit and focus on something else. Anyway, Mitch, when he said that, for the few following days, I started kind of connecting a few dots, and I thought, what if this streak ends, you know, with this baby coming? It should be coming today or tomorrow. Tomorrow is the induction date, so we'll need bubs tomorrow. I thought to myself, if this ends, I'll take some time off or whatever. I wouldn't mind starting up a deadlift thing, just purely for comparison, for my mind, for my soul, to see whether I can progress that thing better. Just focusing on deadlifts. That's something that's really exciting me, and I have a lot of excitement about deadlifting. Not as much as squatting, but those two things are far, far away from everything else. So I think I could master doing deadlifts every day. It's a movement that never feels bad to me. It always feels good to me. Unlike squatting, like right now it feels shit, but I'm here doing it. Whereas deadlifts never really feel bad. Like it's an easy movement for me. Something to ponder about. I mean, I'm not planning to stop, but if my hand gets forced, maybe something good will come out of it. Ooh, the back felt a bit shit there. Guys, I'm gonna have to let you go because this is getting too long. I never thought it was gonna be a video of this length. But anyway, now if you like this type of video, let me know. I mean, I'm trying different things. This is really cool because there's no editing for this, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this, because baby can come anytime now. I don't have time to be on YouTube, to be editing. So I like this style. Appreciate you guys. If you've made it to the end of this video, let me know what you think about some of these things that I've brought up. Clarence Kennedy's squat style, my squat style, hip pain, knee pain, and the whole business that Mitch is talking about, deadlift versus squats and muscle activation, and that being the best accessory. Interesting stuff. That's been on my mind for the last few days. Appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.